In response to those trends that we're seeing in the market, Digium's moving to address these new business expectations in a number of ways. As I mentioned before, we're working on an entirely new open source project launched last year called Asterisk SCF. Asterisk SCF is an open source enterprise and carrier class service delivery framework that is designed to be scalable, fault tolerant, and extensible through well-documented set of developer APIs. That platform is aimed at addressing the future IP communication needs of businesses of any size. And while we're pushing forward with Asterisk SCF, Digium, in partnership with its community, is also hard at work on Asterisk 1.10 that will bring a slew of new and exciting features to the traditional Asterisk project. And lastly, watch for a number of new and exciting both products and services coming from Digium in 2011. Our lawyers won't let me be specific as to what those are, but know that we're going to be adding quite a few arrows to our quiver, so to speak, this year. So thank you for taking the time. I think we've probably got a few minutes left over here for questions, if you have any. Go ahead.
Maybe this is too specific, but we already have a voice over IP PTX system that we are using right now, and we are, actually required to be compliant with PCI.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're finding out that PCI compliance doesn't really define what you need to do as far as your voice over IP system goes, and that most of the voice over IP providers or system doesn't support secure communication or encrypted voice. Is there anything that Asterisk has, you guys have done, or that you know of, or will this be a problem as you? Because I'm sure as enterprises move into implementing voice over IP and these kind of PBXs, sure, they're going to be asked by that question. So,
well, you are able to do encrypted transactions both at the SIP layer and at the media layer in the most recent versions of Asterisk. Dependent upon the version, that might cause you to have to be running on the TCP side versus the UDP side. The support for encryption on the UDP side is more difficult to achieve. Asterisk 1.10 will bring, I believe, a pretty significant expansion to what's available to you for encryption around VoIP, but it's able to be done today in the most modern supported releases of Asterisk. I know what you're speaking of when you say PCI compliance. That includes everything from as a singular example, if I'm a call center, a debt collection operation, for instance, and I'm calling to get credit card numbers from people to pay their bills, under new rules in PCI, I'm not allowed to have that number read out over the phone in a way that the agent in the contact center can hear. I have to either send them somewhere else where they put it in over DTMF, and even then those tones have to be muted so that the agent can't hear them and capture them. So it creates all kinds of more sophisticated demands upon a phone platform, which makes, in my opinion, further argument for why open source makes more sense. That gives me the ability, theoretically, to accommodate those changes in policy or in regulatory requirement, where otherwise I'm at the behest of my proprietary vendor to decide when they're going to push that capability into the product. So on the encryption front, you should be good as long as you're with a 1.8 version of Asterisk. Beyond that, it should improve in 1.10. So.
But have you seen service providers, say like Vonage or other service providers that will set up set fronts support encryption on their level?
That's an altogether different thing. Many of those guys are operating proprietary switches within their networks that might or might not have support for a particular variety of encryption. That changes the game somewhat. If compliance becomes the big issue, you either have to shop your providers specifically on that ability, or you've got to bring in service over conventional phone service delivery methods into your facility where you're not going out over the internet for the purpose of completing those calls. A simple thing to do might be to ask your provider to accommodate a VPN tunnel for your services end to end, where you then are encapsulating that traffic and it's theoretically secure. I can't say whether that meets the smell test of PCI or not, though. Yeah. Other questions? Okay.
For small PCs, inexpensive PCs in a failover configuration, as opposed to a highly reliable server, dual power supplies, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it is. The failover, quote unquote, capability of two PCs running in parallel is a little bit more tricky in that you either have to be intercepting service via proxy so that you can route traffic accordingly between those two machines, which becomes a pretty sophisticated design for a small company. The other idea is that you just have a single PC, for instance, with replacement parts on a bench where you could rapidly recover it if you needed to. I'm aware of plenty of installations serving up to even 50 people that are running on equipment that I would not individually be comfortable with, but that has been up for 3 years, 4 years without a failure. So it's kind of a hit or miss. You're at no greater risk than you are your email server dying, as an example. But yeah, it can be engineered such that it can fail over real time between two pieces of equipment if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, just make certain that you're prepared to recover quickly from some power supply failure or disk failure or whatever the case may be in an inexpensive PC.
Can you speak to the increase in traffic that would be incurred on a traditional company where I've got a data and a phone line going everywhere, and all of a sudden I want to put all that traffic on my data network?
Right. Sure. Really, when you look at a modern data LAN, most companies are switching at speeds 100 megabit, some gigabit, some blend thereof. The typical uncompressed VoIP call with packet overhead in it is going to generate something on the order of 80 kilobit of network space, bidirectional, fully duplex call. So 80 or low 80s. If you look at what that represents as overall utilization within a 100 megabit network, it's inconsequential. It becomes a bigger issue when you look out services side. If you're trying to move your traffic over the internet to a service provider, for instance, then those questions become a little more tricky. You obviously have to put some kind of precedence on that traffic at the gateway layer, unless you have a QoS managed solution like an MPLS network or something where you've got explicit control. Elsewise, you're just trying to keep the receptionist mailing a 20 megabit attachment out via email from interfering with the balance of the operations phone calls at the firewall layer. But yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about how much network space it occupies in the LAN. When you start looking toward the WAN, then it's something you need to take a closer look at. Anybody else? There you go. Ding.
Wow.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Hold on. You actually have a book, too,
Yeah.
that you need to give away. So do you have a question? How do you want to do that?
It's big snooze. Anybody?
First one to get to it?
Hey, I will say, whoever takes this only has the advantage of paper. You can actually download the entire content of this book off the internet in PDF form if you really want to read it. You just go search for it by title, * The Future of Telephony. There's also, by the way, a revised version of this book coming out sometime soon.
Next month.
Yeah, next month. That will, it's an abridged version that contains a whole lot of new content, updated to reflect new versions and those kinds of things.
Next year we'll work to get an advanced copy.
Sure, absolutely. Anybody? Here you go. You guys fight it out. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you very much. Good job, man. Maybe I should go work with O'Reilly and Pride Croc.
Sure. Yeah, I do.
I might want to talk to you in
Sure.
the near future here on, I'm looking at going to a new VoIP solution for the city of Columbia, and I really rather go something open source if I can.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you guys have that great, let me turn this off.